Hello, Canucks fans, and welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, which is brought to you by the great folks over at Greta, a great spot for all games, home and away. We were there for the Canucks Army viewing party, and you're going to get another chance throughout the year to come out and hang out with us. We had Travis Wall on the show yesterday, regular listener of the show, of course. Greta Bar YVR is just minutes from the arena. Come by before and after the game or whatever event you're downtown for with weekly drink specials. Greta Bar YVR is the place to be. 50 West Cordova Street is the address. Let the games begin. Right off the top, Harm, speaking of regular listeners of the show, got to wish Rowan, regular listener of the show, Rowan, a happy 50th birthday. Rowan Morrissey, obviously, regular listener of the show. We talk about him all the time.
Love that. The big 5-0. You're always going on and on about what a stand-up guy he is. So, yeah, happy birthday.
Happy birthday to Rowan. Let's get to it, Harm. We got a lot of business to take care of today. It was the scuffle heard around the world, and that's the title of today's show. We're going to talk about Elias Pettersson and JT Miller's little practice scuffle, which was broken on our show. Like, that's the thing I want to point out. Nobody was talking about it. Jeff Patterson talked about it on his hit yesterday. We kind of glossed over it yesterday. I think it's because there's a couple days off between games, but everybody's talking about it today, so we're going to talk about it a little bit as well.
I'm going to chime in. I didn't even clip it because I felt like it wasn't that big of a deal. Jeff was like, oh, yeah, they just kind of got into a little scuffle. I'm like, oh, that happens all the time in practice. And all of a sudden, I'm on social media seeing like WrestleMania previews between EP40 and JT Miller. I'm like, man, I missed out on that on that opportunity, clearly.
Next time. Always next time, Jacob. And you're going to have a chance to redeem yourself with Family Feud. We'll see what kind of questions you came up with later in today's episode. But before we talk about the scuffle, Harm, some roster moves this morning, some business to take care of. The big one, we see Erik Brannstrom and Arshdeep Bains go down to Abbotsford, create some cap space. And this account here, or excuse me, they accrue some cap space. This account here, I got to give him a shout out at the Canucks News on Twitter. Canucks News Summaries is what he goes by. He was all over it. Like, he has spreadsheets going, and he was replying to my tweets, and we were DMing a little bit back and forth. I don't know if you've seen this account, Harm, but this guy, or girl, I don't know yet, but this person, whoever it is doing a phenomenal job. Like, go check out the account. Tons of different information. Really, really good job. And they did the math here. You're going from about 2,200 a day to over 11,000 a day in the accrual rate. Multiplies it by about 5 times for each day that you have Erik Brannstrom and Arshdeep Bains down in Abbotsford. So again, 2 days off until Saturday. You get those guys down. And the other thing that this person pointed out to me was that Derek Forbort was never taken off the roster. So the Canucks have 2 roster spots right now. So we also saw Rick Dhaliwal reporting that Derek Forbort is set to return. So it's not as if there's only going to be 1 spot available. It's 2 spots that they're going to have to fill on the roster. Obviously, my personal hope is that Erik Brannstrom comes back up. This could just be a paper transaction, but it could also be the Canucks saying, well, we have Forbort back, so we're going to go back to the defense the way it was before Derek Forbort had to leave for personal reasons.
Yeah, I'd expect this to be a paper transaction. I'm with you. I want it to just be a paper transaction. I think Brannstrom's last couple of games have been really strong. I figured, especially against Chicago, probably his best game as a Canuck. I know he's only played 3, but it seems like he's building in a positive direction. The last couple of games, the underlying numbers for that third pair have been a lot better as far as controlling play, spending more time in the offensive zone, not getting hemmed without the puck as much defensively. I think it's helped settle Vinny Desharnais' game down. That's the type of defenseman that he fits best with. So with all that in mind, given the struggles that this blue line has moving the puck with the second and third pair, I really hope and would expect that Brannstrom just comes back up and that this is just a paper transaction. I will be interested to see if Bains ultimately comes back up or not too, because they're going to be at home. So you could theoretically run like a 22-man roster instead, where if he's going to be the extra forward, which we don't know, but if he is going to be the extra forward, considering they're not on the road and Vancouver and Abbotsford is so close, you could just run 22 guys and accrue that extra cap space. And then if there is an injury or you need somebody to come up and play an extra game, you can then make that call up. And it's not like he has to fly cross continent or anything. So I'll be looking to see what they do with Bains as well.
And the thing that you mentioned there about Brannstrom was that you thought it was his best game. Rick Tocchet said the same thing. He said that I think that was his best game as a Canuck. That was Erik Brannstrom's 3rd game. He picks up his 1st point of the season. He was great in that game. We sung his praises when we broke down the game on yesterday's show. And I have to think that this is just a paper transaction. Like you don't know for sure. We don't know, but I look at it and I say he should be right in that mix to play games with Juleson, Desharnais, alongside Forbert on the right side there. Like Forbert's probably going to be the left guy, and I don't see many games off for Derek Forbert. But those other two guys that I mentioned, in Juleson and Desharnais, like Brandstrom should be right in the mix there, playing his off wing.
Also, especially like what combination would you then be going with? Because Juleson's out. If it isn't Brandstrom, you're going to go back to Forbert. Desharnais, which lasted all of one game before the coaching staff itself. The coaching staff saw enough in one game to break them up, to split them. I believe Juleson drew into the lineup the next game. So, yeah, I'd be really, really surprised if Brandstrom isn't back up.
Free Brandstrom. We're going to get it trending if it happens. That's a warning.
Oh, yeah. We're going to have to.
We're going to have to. On the forward side, we talked about it a bit yesterday, but I saw Baines went down, and to me, like, you got to get Daniel Sprong in the lineup. So I'm kind of with you there. Just, go with the 22-man roster. If you're at home, you've got a homestand, take advantage of Abbotsford being right there. Daniel Sprong's got to play on Saturday, in my view. And I'm not going to be here tomorrow to preview the game with you and Irf tomorrow. But to me, Daniel Sprong's got to get back in the lineup.
Yeah, I agree. I guess as far as the Baines conversation as well, if you're the whole idea of papering him down and running with a shorter roster, I guess you'd also kind of have to check where Abbotsford is as far as, okay, if they're on the road pretty far away, then that might make it a bit more complicated. So yeah, I mean, you can look that up in the meantime, but yeah, I think Sprong, he brings enough offense that in a fourth line role, he's proven that he can deliver in that type of capacity for Seattle. He played further down the lineup in Detroit as well. And I really believe that he's an asset on that second power play unit. We saw it in the first game of the season. And to me, I didn't think his defensive play was that bad in the last game. Maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention. Maybe I'd need to go back and watch every single one of his shifts, but it wasn't like the first time the Canucks played Philly where it was, okay, he clearly blew defensive zone coverage there, resulted in a goal against. Oof, that's an ugly mistake that ended up in the back of the net. He didn't have anything like that in his last game. So I want to see him get another crack at it, especially because it's not like the fourth line as it's currently constructed. I know Suter scored last game, but it's not like they've been lighting the world on fire, and that's a combination you can't break up.
Yeah, absolutely. We had that conversation yesterday. Abbotsford schedule, home opener weekend, Harm. It's the home opener weekend starting tomorrow, and then Saturday is their next home game. Home opener weekend, you want Archdeep Baines around for that. Come on, you want Baines down there. We'll see. We'll see if Baines gets the call back, but we're hoping that Eric Brandstrom gets the call back. Okay, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the scuffle heard around the world, which I think you can tell by the title there, that we don't think is too serious, but let's talk about it anyway, Harm. Again, it was broken on our show yesterday, and we hardly talked about it. Elias Pettersson and JT Miller got into a battle drill, chopped at each other. JT Miller called Elias Pettersson a baby. And then they skated away without anybody having to intervene. Like, that's the thing that I keep coming back to. Like, on the rankings of NHL practice scuffles, that's low. I listed some other ones on Twitter today. Garland, Joshua, those guys were throwing gloved punches at each other, had to be separated by teammates, and then they're like best friends by the end of the year. And I'm not saying Pettersson and Miller are even going to be best friends. I'm just saying in terms of like NHL scuffles, it ranks pretty low on like what we actually saw happen. So obviously you had Willie Mitchell and Ryan Kessler as well. Bortuzzo, I don't know who it was with, but then the Blues went on a heater and won the cup. I mentioned Sawyer Minio and Danilo Klimovich there, the one at training camp that we saw. And yeah, it's just, I don't know, man. To me, it's not a huge deal. We know JT Miller and Elias Pettersson don't necessarily like each other, and we know they've had their run-ins in the past, and like we understand all that. But to me, like, it's an NHL practice. They're battling. I don't think Miller's talked about it, but when Petey talked about it, he said, he's like, yeah, it's good. Like, you get the temperature up in practice. And I know he might just be saying that, but at the end of the day, there's some truth to that. Like, there's some truth to it. Tocchet didn't really care. We've seen worse. Adam Gaudette and Tyler Mott. That's one I forgot. Do you remember that one? That was like they dropped the gloves and were throwing punches at each other. Like, this was a low-ranking scuffle in recent Canucks history.
But also, if it was, let's say, I don't know, Carson Soucy and I was gonna say Nils Amon, but I can't even imagine Nils Amon getting in a practice scuffle. To be honest, I don't know if he has a mean bone in his body, but if it was, I don't know, Susie and Bluger, where they had that type of exchange, is anybody even tweeting about it? Like, honestly, it's, I wasn't there, but the way that JPAT was describing it, yeah, it was, a couple slashes, cross check at the end, but I don't know, watching practices over the years, like you'll see that type of stuff occasionally, but of course it gets a little bit more play because it is your 2-star players. And to me, it's ultimately a nothing burger. You get a little heated in a battle drill. Like, who cares? Anybody who's played competitive sports for a long time can think of situations where you played on a team, maybe a couple of your teammates got into it a little bit in practice, and it was never a big deal beyond that.
Yeah, exactly. It happens.
Also,
okay.
Who knows? It may even be like we know Petey's been struggling. Maybe Miller's just trying to push his buttons a little bit, get him going emotionally.
Get him to fight. Yeah.
I mean, not to fight, but you know what I mean.
No, get him into the fight.
Oh yeah, okay,
not get him to.
Yeah,
fight.
okay, yeah. My bad. I misheard that. And the other thing I'll mention is we've seen Miller in pretty recent history step up and fight a guy for taking a run at Pettersson. Like, they have each other's backs during actual games.
That's what it matters. And I was also trying to make this joke on Twitter earlier, was that as soon as Elias Pettersson's shooting percentage goes up from 0, as soon as he has some positive shooting regression, everybody's going to be saying, well, look, it was JT Miller that sparked that. What a great leader. But anyways, yeah. Do you have anything else that you want to say about it before we get to Family Feud?
Not really, no.
Okay. Let's get to Family Feud. Let's just get to it. Wow, we're going to roll right through this show today. Let's get to Family Feud. Jacob, take it away.
And it's time for another edition of Canucks Conversation Family Feud. I am a little bit sick today, so my apologies. I'm going to sound a little off. I'm going to power through it, though. Harman is ready to go. Quads, I see, is muted. I think he's got the other headphones on. I don't think he can hear us. Quads, Julio Rodriguez is the biggest waste of money in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, he definitely
I think
can
we're
hear
good.
That.
All right. A little bit tougher this week, Harm. So,
okay.
But as it always is, if you get the number one answers, you're going to be just fine. So I think this one's attainable. And I think it's nice. Another one that's, I believe, 4 of 5 of these came from user submissions. So the fans are coming out. They're trying to stump you guys. I like it.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, you'll have 25 seconds on the clock. Your time will begin when I finish reading the first question. If you need a pass, just say pass. We'll come back to it at the end.
And will the timer actually pop up on screen?
It sure will. As soon as I finish reading the first question, your timer will go on screen.
Perfect.
If you were on the side of the highway with a broken down vehicle, which current Canuck would you most like to see driving towards you?
Tyler Myers.
How many 100-point seasons will Elias Pettersson have in his career?
3.
Name a Canucks goalie from the Jim Benning era.
Thatcher Demko.
Name a Canuck, former or current, with a Stanley Cup ring.
Luongo.
Name a Canuck who wore a jersey number in the 90s.
Sorry, what was that? I misheard that.
Name a Canuck who wore a jersey number in the 90s, 90 to 99. I'll let you answer the question.
I'm just stumped today. I don't know why.
All right, we'll have to pass.
I'll just
on
pass
that.
That yeah.
All right,
that was rough.
You can get Quads back in.
All I saw, I was watching. I was on mute. All I see is Harman shaking his head and looking.
I just blanked on a couple.
I
just blanked on a couple of them. Like completely. Like I bombed that one. I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it. I bombed that one.
In the chat here, people are.
It's not too bad though, Harman. You got 78 points.
That's not very good.
It's still attainable, and there's a couple number one answers still out there. So Quads does have a chance.
I feel like I had a decent start, and then just like the end was just brutal.
I would agree with that. All right, Quads, you're going to have 30 seconds on the clock. Your timer will begin when I finish reading the first question. If you give one of Harman's answers, you're going to hear the buzzer, and you'll have to give me another answer. And if you need to pass, just say pass. We'll come back to it at the end if we have time. Are you ready?
Yes.
If you were stuck on the side of the highway with a broken down vehicle, which current Canuck would you most like to see?
JT Miller.
How many 100-point seasons will Elias Pettersson have in his career?
4.
Name a Canucks goalie from the Jim Benning era.
Jacob Markstrom.
Name a Canuck, former or current, with a Stanley Cup ring.
Mark Messier.
Name a Canuck who wore a jersey number in the 90s, 90 to 99.
Sorry?
Name a Canuck who wore a jersey number in the 90s. Like a jersey number that's number 90 to 99.
Pavel Bure. Okay.
There you go.
Pavel Bure.
That
was weird wording, Jacob.
Yeah, that question makes a lot more sense written in the survey than it did when I said it out loud.
It's like, what the hell are you talking about?
That threw me off in the beginning.
Name a Canuck who wore a jersey between the years 1990 and 2000.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
all
again,
of them?
It made a lot more sense written, and everybody in the survey responses understood it. Just didn't come out.
I gotta be honest.
Verbally
do the math, Jacob. I think I just clutched up.
That was really good.
I think you did too, because you were so quick on a few of those. This might be your best performance yet.
That was your best Family Feud, which is great because that was my worst.
Sorry, I do have to double check though. What was your answer for the 100-point seasons with Elias Pettersson?
4.
Okay. So
while you tally that up, Jacob, Harman,
Yeah.
which one's tripped you up?
The last one.
Okay, fair. Yeah.
And then the Stanley Cup ring. Like, I don't know why. Like, for some reason, I was like Luongo just because he just won with the Panthers technically. But I don't know why. I just blanked.
I think that's a fine one.
So
we'll see. I don't know.
So the good news is you guys are victorious.
No way.
Quads
pulled 160 points.
Oh,
he got so Harman, you got 2 number 1 answers. Quads got the other 3.
Let's go.
Let's go. Stranded on the side of the road, driving towards you. Number 1 answer was JT Miller. 44
I knew it.
points for that
as soon as I heard stranded on the side of the road, I was like, he could change a tire.
Tyler Myers was the number 2 response.
He was actually. I kid you not. If Harm said Miller, I was gonna say Myers. That was my number 2.
Connor Garland was my pick for that one. I think Connor Garland would be the best option.
I could tell you who I wouldn't want if you want to do a question for
Hoglander.
Hoglander, no first ballot, can't help you fix a car.
How many 100 points seasons will Elias Pettersson have? You guys got the number 1 and the number 2 answer with 3 and 4. Only 8 people said just the 1, which is interesting because the live chat and Rinkwide and Canucks Convo would probably lead you to believe differently. But nope, a lot of people confident PD will bounce back with a few more 100-point seasons in his career. Name a Canucks goalie from the Jim Benning era. You guys got Markstrom as the number 1 answer. Thatcher Demko, only 8 votes for Demko, and I think people consider him more of this current era. Some great responses on there, though. Braden Holtby, Richard Bachman, Eddie Lack, Mikey DiPietro with a few in there. Ryan Miller was the number 2 answer, by the way.
It's a good one.
Name a Canuck, former or current, with a Stanley Cup ring. Luongo was the number 1 answer.
Let's go, Hart.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Okay. So a lot of people thought that way, and recency bias clearly was a big thing here because OEL was the number 3 answer. And Gustav Forsling got a few votes in there as well. So a lot of people thinking those Canucks, former Canucks that are involved with the Panthers. Mark Messier was the number 2 answer, by the way. Canuck with a jersey number from 90 to 99. Pavel Bure, the number 1 answer for those few years he wore 96. Kuzmenko, the number 2 answer. Zadorov, the number 3. And I think the most interesting one on there was with 5 responses, Juho Lammikko.
Oh, yes.
Oh, my God.
Canucks Convo listeners are legit. That's the thing. Canucks Convo listeners hear me bring up Juho Lammikko at least once a month. So he's on everybody's mind. If you're a regular listener to Canucks Convo, you hear me talk about Juho Lammikko and that magical 4th line with Matthew Highmore and Tyler Mott on the wings. No response from anyone to me.
I thought Jake was going to continue. Or like,
no, I'm done.
Record up. Oh, okay, sick.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
What was our total then? Because Harman got 70.
238 points. Sorry, I was just catching up on the chat. Some people seem to be having some connection issues, so I'm trying to make sure our stream is still good.
I'll catch you up on the chat. Quads carried. Solid answers from Quads. Let's go Quads. I'll be damned. I did not have Quads bringing home the W on my bingo card. Let's go. I actually can't believe you pulled that off, Harm.
That was crazy. That was well done.
Dakota Joshua Truther, but Spooky in the chat, Twitter chat, said a month? Come on, at least bi-weekly for me mentioning Juho Lammikko. I do talk about Juho Lammikko a lot.
A little bit too much.
That's up for debate.
Or you'll even bring up like Matthew Highmore. Like, I don't know what it is with you and the fourth liners during the really lean Canucks years.
Don't forget Philip Holm. Not a fourth
Yeah.
liner, but Philip Holm was my guy. There
was Philip Larson too. He was actually not bad.
That was JD, friend of the show.
Do you remember that? And the word was like competent. The like Philip Larson wars.
Yes. Oh, yeah. So good. Brings me right back. Okay. People in chat don't like that we disrespected Nils Höglander there about the fixing a car thing. I think if you asked every Canuck, they would have the exact same answer. But that being said,
it's not because he wouldn't try and help you. It's because he is unlikely to know how.
Yes. But that being said, like, he grew up in a village with like 40 people.
True. Yeah.
Right.
That's
so maybe, maybe he was the town mechanic. I don't know. Like, you never know. But yeah, just survival in general. Like, I think that's how we were looking at the question. Was like, you're stuck on the side of the road, but you're also in the middle of nowhere. Like, JT Miller's going to be the one you look to. Tyler Myers, obviously.
Probably not leaning on PD either.
No. Honestly, like, no disrespect, because I know there's Swedish mechanics, but I don't know. I wouldn't pick one of the Swedish guys, at least on the Canucks.
Sweden is known for some of its cars, though. Volvo, Saab. Like, I'm sure the Swedes have better mechanical knowledge than you'd think.
I'm talking about the Swedes on the Canucks.
Fair enough.
Like, I trust Edler, for example. It's not like it's just.
Well, he's a dad.
Exactly, right? Yeah. But PD and Höglander are young too. So I'll be honest. Like, I wouldn't like. You don't want me to see you on the side of a highway. I'm not going to know how to change a tire or
star. Make a star formation. That's all you got to remember. I'll help you. I'll show you. How to do it. I'll show you how to do it. Although I must say I got no free ads, but I got BCAA just in case. If it's like raining, I'd probably do that. I'd probably call roadside assistance. Like, I'm not changing that. It's raining.
Yeah, I've got I think the TD one that, like, if you have their credit card, it get free roadside assistance. So
hell yeah. Okay. Get your anyone else's in, folks. Like I said, it's going to be a shorter show today. Evidently, there's just not much to talk about.
I've got something to bring up in anyone else once we start.
I do too, actually. So let's. Oh, before we get to anyone else, I'm going to tell you about the Vancouver Whitecaps. Harman, did you catch the game last night?
I did not. No.
Do you know the final score?
No.
Okay, well, you knew based on my ad reads that the Whitecaps needed to win last night. They needed the win against the Portland. What are they called? Timbers.
Yeah,
they needed the win against the Portland Timbers, and they got it. And there is going to be games at BC Place after a massive win in Portland in the wildcard round. The Whitecaps are off to round 1 of the 2024 MLS Cup playoffs. The Caps are taking on LAFC in a best-of-3 series. Game 1 is in LA this weekend. The Caps return home for Game 2 at BC Place on Sunday, November 3rd. Kickoff is at 5:45 p.m. Tickets are on sale now. For more information, visit whitecapsfc.com. This Ryan Gauld guy, I'm gonna watch playoff games. And I couldn't catch last night, but I'm gonna watch playoff games. I'm gonna watch. I'm a big Whitecaps fan. They're a fan of Canucks Convo. I'm a fan of the Whitecaps. Massive shout out to the Whitecaps for winning 5-0 last night. That was awesome.
It's too bad that it's too bad that I'm going on the LA, like the Canucks California road trip. Otherwise, I was genuinely going to be like, you know what, I'm going to go to that game.
They're playing against LAFC.
Yeah, can you not go see them in LA?
Oh, yeah. They might be playing in LA.
That's this weekend.
No, because there's 3. They might play a third game because it's a best of 3, right?
Although I think they're going to be.
I don't think I'm going to be there.
They're going to be here while Harman is in LA.
Yeah, that's
unfortunately. But it almost worked out for you.
Where your
Whitecaps? They just got to go deeper. They just got to go deeper in the playoffs.
That's right.
Easy solution.
That's right. All right. This one. Okay, let's get anyone else started. Let's get anyone else started. People are starting to get their questions, and we got a wrestling question in the chat here, Harm. Okay, this one. Anyone else is presented proudly by White Spot. At White Spot, they're all about enjoying great, comforting food and spending quality time with loved ones. With the new comfort menu, White Spot is focusing on cozy, satisfying flavors that are perfect to enjoy with family. Available now and developed by the White Spot culinary team, the comfort menu is filled with warm, indulgent dishes designed to make you feel right at home. The new menu features mouthwatering new additions like mini Yorkies, the braised beef burger, the home-style pot roast, and backed by popular demand, the iconic chicken pot pie. Bring your family to White Spot for a delicious meal perfect for the season. Visit your local White Spot today. I gotta get me some car hop. Like it's just such a great experience, and I haven't done it in a while. Like I did it about a year and a half ago, and it was just awesome. Like that's the thing, Harm. You know what? You go to a fine establishment like White Spot. Really, anyone's welcome at White Spot, obviously. But if I go to a restaurant, me personally, like I like to dress up. There's no rules in car hop as far as I'm concerned. Like if I'm in my car and there's one waiter seeing me, I'm good with that. Like I just go into White Spot. You're not feeling your best, whatever. Go to White Spot, flash the hazards on, boom, food at your car. White Spot is the presenting sponsor of. Anyone else? Let's go to the chat. A lot of people with their comments about which Canucks could best fix a car. I feel like we've had the question of like survival, and the answer since he's been in Vancouver has been JT Miller. Like that's the guy you want with you if you need to like survive in the wilderness. He's a woodsman. Doesn't he do hunting too? Like I think he does hunting.
I think so. He at least strikes me as that type of guy.
For his didn't he shoot a bow and arrow for the gender reveal of his like
I did not see any of the social media content around that, so I don't know.
I'm pretty sure they're
Carson Soucy is also an underrated answer. Just super nice guy energy.
He's got the height too.
Yeah.
Not that JT Miller's too short for my liking, but Soucy, similar. It's like if you combine Miller and Myers, because Myers has a reach advantage. Like you're getting the best fruit, top of the tree. Nobody else is able to get that. So I'm going with Tyler Myers as my number 2. But yeah, I still we haven't talked enough about this Family Feud win today. That was phenomenal. I can't. That's the most points I've ever gotten, and what a time for that to happen. That was great.
Perfect timing.
All right, let's get to the chat here. This one from Nar. Nope, not that one from Nar.
Well, I don't know what it is, but
nope, not reading it. Okay, this one from Mike Cernali. Who'd actually win in a wrestling match between Quads and Harm? Didn't you wrestle in high school, or am I misremembering that?
You're misremembering that.
Okay, well, I definitely didn't wrestle. I would say you. Like, I feel like you have more power in your legs. I was watching something on wrestling, like actual like Olympic wrestling. You know how much like power those people have in their legs? Like you're so low, right? And it's just it's crazy. I'd put you as the betting favorite for that match.
Probably. I've got a bit of a size advantage for sure.
I fight dirty though. Okay, this one from this is a great question from Karn. I love questions like this. Would you rather fight a Connor Garland-sized Dakota Joshua, okay, or a Dakota Joshua-sized Connor Garland? I would much rather fight a Connor Garland-sized Dakota Joshua than Dakota Joshua-sized Connor Garland.
Yeah, I'm with you there. If you give Garland like the way that his competitiveness, no chance.
No, that dude's got so much heart. Like I wouldn't want to go up. I wouldn't want to go up against Connor Garland sized, let alone Dakota Joshua sized. Like no, and I don't even know what we're going up against him in. Fight. We're just fighting them. Yeah, no, I wouldn't want to do that. No, I would go with the Connor Garland sized Dakota Joshua. Yeah, everybody in the chat agrees with that. All right. This one, an actual hockey question. Thank God Travis Wall came in for the save today. Friend of the show. Travis Wall said, would you consider breaking up Hughes Hronek to bring a more balance to the second pair, maybe against San Jose as a test? Obviously, the Canucks face the San Jose Sharks next week after their game against Pittsburgh on Saturday. So, Harm, what do you think? You split up Hughes Hronek?
I'd give the current D pairs some more rope. I think there's a higher level for Soucy to reach. I don't think that pair should struggle as much as they have to this point in the season. But if it continues for much longer, like if we're having the same conversation 2 weeks from now that this Soucy Myers pair keeps getting caved in and now they're getting torched by some of the better teams in the NHL, then at that point, you're going to have to experiment. It's going to become more and more of an issue, especially once again, the competition as far as the quality of your opponents goes up, because they've been able to get away with it a little bit because they've been playing teams like Chicago and Philadelphia that just aren't very good. But once the schedule gets tougher, I think it's something you look to if the current problems persist.
Harman, I was thinking about this, and I agree with you that yes, it needs to be kind of a work in progress and see how it is. And you give Susie Myers some time. Again, you're on a 3-game winning streak, is the other thing for people to consider. I know the results haven't been pretty when Quinn Hughes isn't on the ice, and sure, a lesser opponent in Chicago, I get it, but you are on a 3-game winning streak. I don't think this is some urgent thing that we need to be discussing on a Thursday. The thing I will say is that it would make it a lot easier for the Canucks to be able to split up that pairing if they really had someone to play with Carson Soucy. Obviously, I bring up Rasmus Andersson all the time, but have you at all thought about, if it's not going to be Rasmus Andersson, which I think it will be, like, is there another guy out there that you think the Canucks could go out and get? Like, I was looking at the bottom feeder teams and just trying to think about guys who fit the bill of, okay, it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg, and maybe they're going to be not the biggest difference maker, but they're going to be a step up on what we've seen from Vinny Desharnais so far. Noah Juleson, that type of thing. Obviously, I want them to keep Erik Brannstrom in that rotation. I think he's a step up, but like a legit kind of 4-5 guy. And I guess 4-5 is a bit of a stretch, but 4. Is there a 4 out there?
For me, I'd rather just swing big. Like, I don't think it makes sense because you already have $5 million tied up between Myers and Desharnais on the right side. I don't want another tweener where it's like, okay, maybe he can play second pair, right? And that's why I have been against the idea of, let's say, Timothy Liljegren, who's on the trade block, where it's like, yeah, I look at his skill set on paper and I think the way that he can move the puck, the way that he can transition, would he be an upgrade for the Canucks blue line? Would he slot into the top 6? Would he be a player that could legitimately help you? Yeah, absolutely. But not when he's paid $3 million and you already have money tied up into other fringe 4, 5, 6 type defensemen on that right side. So to me, it needs to be for more of a premium guy. And outside of Anderson, again, it'll sort of depend on who actually shakes loose. And I think, honestly, there's going to be more left shot guys than right shot guys that fit that bill. I mean, Marcus Pettersson is a name that comes to mind as far as a left shot, where Pittsburgh is having a tough start to the season so far. He's a pending UFA, and what Pettersson can do, not only defensively in a shutdown role, but the way that he skates, the way that he can move the puck. He was arguably Pittsburgh's best all-around defenseman last year, and he's the type of player that, again, it's not a perfect fit because he has a left shot rather than a right shot, but I really like Pettersson's skill set and what he could do for this type of blue line.
Also worth noting that Soucy played the right side a lot in Minnesota and Seattle. So that he's able to do it. We talked about Brannstrom being able to do it. One team that I look at, Harm, and maybe I'm just looking and being incorrect, but the Utah Hockey Club, like they're kind of like a fringe team. Like they might make the playoffs, they might not, but the Utah Hockey Club might be sellers. And right now they've got John Marino and Sean Durzi on the shelf. We know the Canucks have been linked to Marino in the past. Obviously, he has ties to the Pittsburgh organization when the Canucks front office was in Pittsburgh. Right now, like Utah's defense core without those two guys doesn't look very bad. Maverick Lamoureux obviously is a prospect kind of guy, so they're going to probably just take him out of the lineup when Durzi and Marino get healthy. But like, do you think Utah might be in the market to acquire some assets for what I don't want to call it an embarrassment of riches because it feels like they have a bunch of mid defensemen, but
no, I'd argue it's the opposite. Like, because they're in a playoff spot now, and it's early, but they look like a team that should contend for a playoff spot. Should at least be in the race for a wild card position. They, if anything, are probably going to be looking to add blue line reinforcements because right now, for example, they've got Ian Cole in the top 4 role. And like we saw last year, he can hold down a top 4 role early in the season for a little bit, but he's averaging north of 20 minutes. We saw what happens to him as the season progresses when he has that type of wear and tear early in the season. That's not going to last very long as far as Ian Cole giving them competent minutes. And Utah is actually one of the only teams that make sense as a potential destination for Liljegren. So no, I don't see them all of a sudden looking at selling off some of their defensemen. I will point out, this is what I wanted to bring up in anyone else. Speaking of Utah defensemen, so if you remember the offseason, I was bringing up Michael Kesselring as like my guy, and like, oh, look at this like unheralded kind of like rookie 23-year-old defenseman who was like fine in a bottom pair role, but he didn't light the world on fire or anything. But I remember looking at him and going, oh, he's 6'4", he skates well, he's got a decent first pass. Like, I think he could grow into something. Now, because of those injuries, he's been thrust into top 4 role. and he's got 4 points in 7 games. He's +4 at 5-on-5. He's got good analytics. 24 years old. First of all, because he's broken out now, you're not going to be able to realistically acquire him. Like you could make the case when he was buried on the third pair and they had Dursey and Marino ahead of him that, okay, maybe Kesselring is expendable, but now he's playing top pair minutes. Like, they're not going to move him. But what I thought was really interesting was I was looking back, and it was actually the Oilers who drafted him.
Yes.
And
sixth round.
And it was at the 2023 trade deadline that they traded away Kesselring and a third rounder for Nick Bukestad as a rental. Bukestad only had 3 points in 12 playoff games in that run. And it's like, wow, could the Oilers imagine if the Oilers had Kesselring now as like a 6'4" smooth skating right shot defenseman to play in their top 4 when right now they've got Troy Stecher in their top 4. Like, how badly do the Oilers miss Michael Kesselring right now? That is so funny to me.
Is that a tale of caution there for the Canucks a little bit? Maybe with Tom Willander? You thinking about that at all? Tom Willander's got pedigree.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is, like, Willander's a blue chip prospect, whereas Kesselring, again, was drafted in the 6th round. And I mean,
he wasn't lighting up Baker's. I was looking today. He was not lighting up Bakersfield when they made that trade.
He was a throw-in. He wasn't even like the main, like, 3rd round pick was the main piece.
Yeah.
Like, he was just a throw-in, but it's so funny to me that, like, that they just threw him in, not even as the main asset in that trade. Now all of a sudden he blossoms and looks like a 24-year-old and on an or maybe not on his ELC, but like at a super cheap contract. And now they don't have the exact piece that they traded away at the 2023 trade deadline.
Okay, let's get into a few more things. Shea Theodore, you saw this today, right before we went to air. Shea Theodore signing an extension. We kind of talked about him. He wasn't really ever a realistic target for the Canucks, but he signs a 7-year contract extension with the Vegas Golden Knights. He is going to stay in Vegas at an AAV of 7.425. Your thoughts on the deal?
Yeah, I think it's a good deal for Vegas. I rate him slightly higher than Hronek, for example, as far as I think Theodore is more dynamic on his own. I think I view him as a better player. And so to me, the AAV clocks in slightly higher. It's a pretty reasonable deal for Vegas. It is interesting because when they went out and got Hanifin, and of course they're already paying big money for Pietrangelo as well, I wondered, and a lot of Vegas fans were wondering too, is Theodore going to end up being a player that Vegas can't afford just because of their cap situation? And because right now, for example, their winger, like, they don't have really any quality wingers outside of Mark Stone. They're betting on a lot of like the Victor Olofsson, Pavel Dorofeev, Alex Holtz type guys where it's like, maybe this guy could work out, maybe he won't. So I wondered if they were going to look at maybe next offseason trying to reallocate, like free up some money where their blue line they've got arguably the best blue line in the NHL, or at least top 3. I wondered if they may have looked at it and gone, all right, let's maybe let Theodore walk in the offseason because now we have Hanifin as kind of like a long-term replacement already under contract. And now they can, maybe beef up their winger depth, which among playoff contenders, Vegas's winger depth is probably among the worst out of those teams in the top half of the league.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, again, you're buying years where the cap's going up. So people in the chat seem to think this is a solid deal. I think that's a fair way to put it. I think it's a solid deal for Vegas. And obviously, good for Shea Theodore. BC boy getting paid. Love to see it. Love to see it. The Four Nations jerseys. We didn't get to these yet. Four Nations face-off jerseys. I like Sweden's. Like, Sweden remains the only country. I saw someone tweet this day. Sweden remains the only country to not screw up their jersey every single year. I don't hate Canada's. How could I?
I don't like it.
You don't like Canada? It looks like a Heritage Classic jersey.
The logo looks like something you'd see on a jersey made by the Hudson's Bay Company. It's some like knockoff.
It's one of those like, yeah, like that's what I was gonna say. Like Canadian Tire or like Zeller's back in the day. It feels like one of those like knockoff, like Team Canada, but not official Team Canada jerseys.
Team Canada by Temu.
Yeah. Like I don't know. It needs black in it. Like more black. I don't know
fair.
what it is.
And black pops. Like that's the thing. Black pops when you have black on red. It looks good. I like that look.
I don't know
I
if
like the World Junior looks sometimes. Those are
Yeah,
good.
the World Junior ones are, have been decent in the past, but yeah, I don't know about the white stripes, and I don't like the logos not really doing it for me. There's just something about the combo that, I mean, maybe it looks different on the ice and I'll change my tune, but it's not, I'm not the biggest fan of it.
I would like to see. Yeah,
Sorry,
go
I was
on.
going to say something I wanted to point out is I noticed there's only one jersey for each team, which I would assume is how they're actually going to run it. So I don't think Canada is going to get a white jersey. So when you see Canada US, it'll be red on blue, which I think is going to look really cool. But I mean, I would probably rank Canada the worst out of these 4 jerseys.
Ooh.
Yeah, me too.
What about US? Like, I think the
They're
US should have
fine.
some stars.
Yeah,
Someone
like
in the chat said that too.
Fine,
Yeah, 7-6 said USA needs a star or some more flavor.
but I would take Sweden's all day out of this bunch.
Yeah.
Those are
Sweden's
gorgeous.
the best. Sweden remains the best. Will Elias Pettersson be wearing it? Probably. Will Nils Höglander make that team? Do you think Nils Höglander might make that team?
I
started to wonder about this.
I think it's gonna be. I think he's probably a long shot, but I haven't done a deep dive into their forward depth yet.
Folks, you can go read the story at CanucksArmy.com. You search Canucks Army on Google. Go Canucks Army, Brock Besser, 4 Nations. Brock Besser opened up with Jeff Patterson talking about this, and I think Jeff was the only one that was talking to Brock at this time. But like, Brock wants to make that 4 Nations team, and he's talked about it. Even pointed out that he plays with JT Miller. JT Miller's probably going to make that team. Like, if you're Team USA, you could do a lot worse than a 4th line of JT Miller and Brock Besser together. I would do that if I was Team USA. I know I'm a giant homer, but like, Brock Besser's defensively sound now. It's not like you're getting this one-dimensional sharpshooter. And we recently had this conversation about Brock Besser. Like, in my mind, Brock Besser belongs on that team. I hope he makes the team. He wants it. I think he's earned it, especially with not only last season, but how he started this season. I think he certainly earned to be in that conversation. At the very least, you assume JT Miller will be on that team. I can't see Thatcher Demko playing in that tournament, nor do I think the Canucks should let him. The rosters get announced in late November. I think it's like November 20th or something. Yeah, so it's not like you have a super long runway to really make an impression. So I wonder about Nils Höglander. That's the kind of guy that I look at as being on the outside looking in. Don't expect like a Connor Garland to make the team. The only guy we know has made his team is Quinn Hughes. Quinn Hughes was announced as one of the starters. I don't know if you saw this. Team Canada news. Connor. Yeah, sorry, go on.
I guess it'll tie into what I'm sure you're about to say. Who do you think gets the captaincy for the US?
That's a good question. Probably Matthews. Like, they seem to be using him as the poster boy. What do you think?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I don't know, because I mean, sure, Matthews is their best forward, but I mean, the Leafs haven't really doesn't really scream like captain, in the sense that what has he done in the playoffs? What has his team done in the playoffs?
Do you think it's just a popularity contest though?
I don't know. I don't know. Genuinely. He's also like,
so yeah,
it doesn't have the same like allure, the same like when Sidney Crosby, I assume, is going to be the captain for Team Canada. Like that, yes. Like Crosby is like, he's won at every level.
Totally. He's a slam dunk, but there's no slam dunk for USA. Like, were you getting at the fact that you think it should be Quinn Hughes?
I'm not saying it should be Quinn Hughes. I'm just saying, like, to me, I don't know. Like, I haven't done a deep dive into it, but there isn't like an immediate name that pops to mind as like, oh, they have to make that guy captain the way there is for Canada and Crosby.
So, okay. So sorry. Jack Hughes, Brady Tkachuk. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Like, looking at this list, it's either Austin Matthews. Oh, has JT Miller already made the team? Wait, what? Oh, no. Okay, sorry. This is a projected roster from NHL.com. But among the guys who's actually already made it, I would say it's probably Quinn Hughes that gets... Yeah, like, it's Quinn Hughes or it's Austin Matthews. I don't think it's Adam Fox.
Yeah.
I'd say it's Austin Matthews or Quinn Hughes. I hope it's Quinn Hughes. More playoff success. I think he's a better captain. More than... I was trying to figure out how to make the word fraud work in Austin Matthews' name, but I couldn't do it. Yeah, people in the chat, no surprise, say Quinn should be captain. I think it is. I think it's between Quinn and Austin Matthews, and I'd say maybe outside shot for Adam Fox there, but I would say Quinn Hughes or Austin Matthews is the captain there. what I was going to say, Harm, was I don't know if you saw this, but Connor McDavid was asked about the captains. He said it should be Sid, no question. So I'm glad McDavid was like, oh, whatever they decide. He was just like, no, there's no question. It should be Sidney Crosby. And Rick Tocchet going to get to coach that team. So looking forward to seeing that. That's going to be, it's just going to be fun, man. And you know what I was wondering yesterday? I was actually wondering this because of the scuffle with Miller and Pettersson at practice was like, what do you think the temperature is going to be like? Because All-Star game, like the reason they got rid of the All-Star game is because the temperature was so low that like you fell asleep watching it. What do you think the temperature is going to be like? Like at the end of the day, it is best on best. And I know I talked about the World Baseball Classic a couple of years ago when I was talking about how badly I want to see the NHL do something like this or go back to the Olympics at the very least. Like the temperature is high at Olympic play, but at an NHL run tournament, like, do you think it's going to be a little bit lower? I personally, I think the temperature is going to be high is what I'm getting at. I think it's going to be high for this tournament.
I think it's going to be high, especially because you have to remember that this is on an audition for trying to make the Olympic team. And the Olympic stage is going to have all of like that atmosphere, the experience. Like, of course, Four Nations isn't as glamorous as the Olympics, but if you want to make the Olympic team, you better perform at Four Nations, right? And I think as soon as you're repping your country, it just like there's an extra level of pride there. So yeah, I expect the games to be competitive. I expect them to be intense. Do I expect that from an outside perspective that fans are going to be as emotionally invested as let's say like the 2010 Olympics or 2014 Olympics? No, but I think the players are going to be pretty close to 110% as far as going all in to try and win this thing. And again, understanding the stakes of like every guy wants to make the Olympic team. You're not doing that if you underperform and struggle at Four Nations.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it'd be interesting. And like I said, I thought about it because Team USA, JT Miller, Team Sweden, you'd assume, Elias Pettersson. So we'll see. We'll see what the fireworks bring.
Stirring it up, Quads.
Oh, you know I like to do it once in a while. Although we had a few people in the chat say, thanks for only spending like 3 minutes talking about the Miller-Pettersson thing. I just find it so funny that, you know, it seems to be a very hot topic of conversation among Canucks circles today. Whereas we literally not broke it, but broke it. Like Jeff broke it on our show that happened yesterday. And we were like, oh, interesting. Next question, Jeff. And then, you know, we started talking about the shelf again. But yeah, I don't know. There was no need. And we ended up having a pretty long show. Harmon, did you have anything else that you wanted to get to before we close out?
No, well, just to add on to that, I think everybody's just bored because like normally this would be a game day, right? But lighter schedule than usual this week. So people need things to talk about. And I guess we're all bored and passing time is kind of how I look at it. It's not a real storyline to me.
See, but if you're bored, start throwing out different scenarios where you would want backup from Canucks. Although the answer in most is like JT Miller. Here's one for you, Harm. What situation would you want like Elias Pettersson to be the first person you see? I'll give you one just off the top of my head. I would say like I think Elias Pettersson's a pretty thoughtful person. Like if I needed to like vent, I think I'd like to talk to Elias Pettersson.
Yeah, I could see that.
Although maybe Myers.
If I needed a badminton partner, I played badminton in the past. Like he's got the hand-eye coordination. I know from speaking to his trainer in the past that in previous off seasons he's included that as part of his just like off-season training. So yeah, if I needed a badminton partner and like any guy on the Canucks roster, I would take PD. Or
you're wide open for a tap-in pass. You want PD.
Yeah.
You're tasked with scoring a goal. on NHL ice. Who do you want as your center? I would say Pettersson because I think Miller would yell at me really fast. Like, I think he'd so
well, you'd feel the pressure that if you miss this, you're gonna get yelled at.
Yeah, I'd have to be like, all right, JT. So I struggle with stopping properly. I can skate, but I've always struggled with stopping. So
I'm trying to bank it in off my skates.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna come to a stop by slowing down. Anyways, post the quads cut of me shooting that puck at Rogers Arena last year. Anyways, yeah, that was it. Let's get to our Bet365 bet of the day. Harmon, I'm just going to go with the wonkiest odds because sometimes I do this. Craig Berube returns, okay? right? Or is it in St. Louis or is it in Toronto? I don't know. But Craig Berube coaches against his old team, the St. Louis Blues, as bench boss of the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Maple Leafs had an absolute stinker in their last game, so it looks like the books are expecting the Leafs to bounce back. But because they're total frauds, it's going to be a plus 200 bet on the Blues to win and upset the Craig Berube return here. Plus 200, you can get the Blues to win on the money line because obviously the Leafs aren't going to show up for their head coach.
Worth mentioning, Robert Thomas is out with a fractured ankle, so that probably
didn't know that.
The odds.
Stand by the bet. Didn't know that. Stand by the bet. You're taking the Blues at plus 200 odds to beat the Leafs today. That one is our Bet365 bet of the day, brought to you by Bet365, a proud partner of Canucks Conversation. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code NATION when you sign up for an account. Is the game in St. Louis or what? Do we know?
I don't know.
No, it's in Toronto. It's in Toronto. Okay. Anyways, great show today. I thought it was going to be 25 minutes long, but it ended up being nearly an hour. A lot of fun. Reminder, I won't be here tomorrow. You'll be in with Irfan Ghaffar, breaking down everything for Saturday's game, and then we'll be back Monday to break it all down. But this was a fun one, Harm. This was a fun one. I can't believe we're 5-1 in Family Feud. I'm looking forward to Monday's show, and I'm already looking forward to the next Family Feud show. Jacob, is the next survey ready to go?
It is. It's in the description for YouTube and the audio podcast, so please go fill it out.
Fill out the survey, folks, and man, I can't get over it. I'm going to be talking about this one for a while, but we'll close it out there. For my co-host Harman Dial and our technical producer Jacob Lazar, my name is David Quadrelli. Thank you so much for listening to the episode of Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.